The significant challenges we're chasing today are the fact that the economy has become global, A, and B, the Internet is eliminating a lot of barriers to entry to the economy that would have helped the U.S. and other Western cultures previously. Today, for example, China is a significant player, India is a significant player. Between the two of them, they account for 50% of the population of the world. Today, we have lost many of the things that made the Western economy great. We no longer are producers of most manufacturing goods or IT or technical goods. We may have invented them, but they're being manufactured with equal quality and much lesser cost overseas. We've also lost a lot of our services. Many people are aware that India now is the biggest call center in the country, in the world with it, and we're losing more what might be called professional services. Wall Street Journal, for example, has reported that about 40% of American financial work, auditing work for corporate business America is being done in India. And it's being done by Indians who graduated in India with degrees in accounting and specialized by American accounting principles. We have the same thing in law. Almost 40% of American corporate law is also done in India. So if we're going to compete economically in the future, we have to take a stance somewhere. The one thing that can't be outsourced so easily is sales. That still requires consulting, a personal relationship, the role of a trusted advisor, and many of the other aspects. And customers still feel more comfortable face-to-face than they do electronically, and that will probably exist for a long time into the future. The Western world today is nowhere near as well positioned as it was in the past. We've lost much of our economic clout. We are no longer the manufacturers of the world. We don't provide many of the world's services. Even in the medical world, we're importing nurses and doctors because we can't develop our own. If we don't get it right with sales, the last professional boundary that drives the economic engine, so to speak, we're liable to lose it all. Competition has been leveled globally in the world because almost anybody can produce high-quality products and services, so quality drops out. Because our costs are pretty much the same. We can all purchase from the same place and assemble our goods or put together our services from the same resources. We can't compete too much on price. To understand how critical that is, take the expression, good grades won't get you into Harvard. And the reason for that is that everybody applying to Harvard has excellent grades, so that's not a competitive advantage. You have to have something more. The U.S. is going to have something more if it's going to compete globally in the future. The concept of build a better mousetrap was appropriate in the manufacturing age where it was very expensive to develop a new product, and the first one who invented or produced a product had a significant advantage. Others couldn't catch up. It took a long time. Today, because of total quality management, everybody has pretty much the same standards. So as a result, you have to compete on some other advantage than just manufacturing. Even with patent laws, it's quite possible to reverse engineer someone else's service or someone else's product and replicate it and get it to market very shortly after they introduce it to start with. If you don't have laws, like in pharmacology now, we have laws where you're not allowed to duplicate your competitor's product for some period of time. But the rest of the world doesn't necessarily recognize those laws, so we don't have that competitive advantage that we might protect here. Basically, if you know that you can't compete based on the quality of your product, the price, the service, the features and options, essentially what colors it comes in, that you have to find something else. And what it has done, basically, is given the shift of power to the consumer, to the purchasing company or the purchasing individual. As a result, you're going to have to compete by what you can add to that product or service. Today, for example, if a company or an individual wants to buy a replication machine, a duplicating machine, or another office machine, so to speak, all of the major brands and all of the major manufacturers produce essentially the same product with the same features and advantages and the same costs, essentially. So what you're going to have to do is add something better to it. That's called the service piece. So if Global Imaging, which is a world-class selling organization, if its salespeople go in and can define what your needs are and make recommendations and provide consulting services, they've added value. You're now buying their service, and you almost don't care what the piece of equipment is. American companies in the future are going to have to compete on the advantage they have. We have intellectual property, we have consulting service, we have an image for being well thought out, well placed business-wise, to have a sense of efficiency and those kinds of skills that will improve any business globally. If America maintains that position, so to speak, by developing this in what I would call a professional sales approach as opposed to the more amateur or more peddler image of selling, then we'll maintain that position in the world and maintain our leadership. Absolutely. What it comes down to now is you can't compete on engineering, you can't compete on manufacturing, you can't compete on financing. Our costs are all the same. You can't compete on marketing. The principles of marketing and the amount you spend in advertising and building an image are the same. What you can compete on, where there is a wide range from very poor to very excellent, is in the world of sales, that interface with a customer. If you maintain the top edge there, you give yourself a competitive advantage because most of the world isn't good at that.